if having anxiety is a lack of faith, and we can remember that we've gone through some of the hardest moments of our lives and we are still here standing, trying to be better, to learn from our uh, past mistakes and learn how to better maybe avoid certain situations, whatever may have you, then isn't your life a series of learning and observing and getting to know yourself better and so that your future could be better? Welcome to Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards, the podcast dedicated to helping high performers unlock their true potential and cultivate a powerful mindset for success. I'm your host, Julissa Edwards, a mindset coach and advocate for healthy high performance. Join me on this transformative journey as we delve into strategies, insights, and inspiring conversations with experts and thriving high performers. Get ready to master your mindset, elevate your performance, and create a life of purpose and fulfillment. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to Mindset Mastery with yours truly, Julissa Edwards. Today, we're going to do a solo episode. As many of you may or may not know, we recently celebrated our 1 year anniversary in this podcast. And I asked a poll in my stories of what you wanted to hear more of, and what I was told was more solo episodes. So I'm super excited to do kind of a 50-50 split moving forward of interviews and more me solo on the mic. So here we are, we're starting it. Today's episode is all going to be how I can help you dive deep into a topic that many of us struggle with, which is anxiety. So more specifically, I want to explore the counterintuitive yet incredibly powerful approach of surrendering to conquer your anxiety. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by anxious thoughts or have found yourself in a constant state of worry, this episode is most definitely for you. So, first and foremost, to just make it clear, I want to give you guys a good understanding of what anxiety is from a clinical perspective, right? So, if you've ever seen a therapist or have looked up the DSM-5, which is where all diagnoses exist for mental health, you'll see anxiety. um, you have a couple of symptoms that you kind of have to hit in order to have anxiety. So I will say that many of us struggle with symptoms of anxiety, but maybe not a lot of us, or actually probably a lot of us. But in order to be diagnosed with anxiety, you have to have these symptoms for 6 months or longer, pretty consistently, right? Like there's one thing to be nervous, and I'm going to explain the differences in the actual symptoms and or to experience anxiety for a short period of time. And then there's one thing to be anxious all the time, feeling on edge almost all the time for a minimum period of at least 6 months. Excessive worry occurring more days than not, like I said, for at least 6 months at a number or events or at a number of events or activities such as personal life, work life, school, performance. It needs to be hitting multiple areas of your life. Like it can't just be in one section. Um, because then we're having a specific fear around this one thing and not everything. Generalized anxiety is you're nervous about everything almost all the time, and it's really taxing on the mind and the body. So the person that finds it difficult to control this worry would be under the diagnoses of anxiety, right? And so here are some symptoms that occur when we experience this more often than not. So a feeling of being restless. This is so common for my clients, especially for my motherhood clients. And not being able to stay still, feeling on edge all the time. Even like your body will also notice this, right? Like if you're clenching your teeth all the time, or if your hands are always like tied up like a fist, your body just feels tense. If anyone's ever like touched your shoulders and they're like, oh my goodness, you need a massage, right? Like your mind, your body is just tense, tight. You're easily fatigued, and that is such a common symptom because of course, if you're thinking all the time and you're worried and you're stressed, you're exhausted, right? So, we get a full picture of how like the mental fully affects the physical, which I'll get into a little bit later, then affects the spiritual. So difficulty concentrating, or your mind going blank. In the motherhood world, this is called mom brain or mom fog, right? Like it's just hard to think, hard to focus, hard to get our thoughts streamlined, or our thoughts are just going so fast. It's like, what am I even thinking about? And like I said, it is just so exhausting. And so irritability is a big one. I know I struggle with this big time, especially during postpartum. But to be frank, just still from time to time, like if I am not well rested, and so this is a good differentiator, right? Because I don't have anxiety right now. I definitely had some postpartum anxiety and depression, but right now I don't. But I do experience moments of anxiety, right? And so I do experience moments where I'm highly irritable. And if I do not have sleep, you better believe that you are receiving a grumpy version of me who, yeah, just gets highly irritable, and it's just not a good time. So irritability is a big one for anxiety because you're always exhausted. And so it's like, yeah, we lack sleep. Our bandwidth for patience is just that much smaller. Muscle tension, I kind of went into that before, and then sleep disturbance, that's a big one, right? Like people who have anxiety, oftentimes, they just they can't get themselves to one, fall asleep, and then and or stay asleep. Um, yeah. Their sleep just seems unsatisfying. It's like they sleep and they wake up and they're still tired. Okay, so if you're listening to me and you're like, holy crap, I think I have anxiety, like all good. This episode will be a nice insight for you. A lot of the things that I pride myself in and my company in is that I think when you join one of my programs or one-to-one work with me, I try my best. I think we do a really good job of educating the client, right? Because a therapist can most definitely, or a healer can most definitely help you cope and help you decrease the anxiety, which is fantastic. But I also want you to learn the science. I want you to learn the body, the mind, the soul, and how it's all interrelated, holistic health, so that should you experience anxiety again, because anxiety can be chronic and it's just something that some people just have to learn how to manage, right? For some others, it's just periodically, right? Like it'll happen for a certain phase of their life and then it goes away. Um, but yeah, for some of us, it's chronic, and that's okay. Like it is what it is, right? And so when we're more educated about it, we make smarter choices. We're more knowledgeable. I think one of the greatest examples that I can always share, I always say that gratitude is the most underutilized tool in mental health. And the reason being is because I don't think people really understand the grand effects that gratitude has on the mind, body, and soul, right? And so I'm not going to go in there yet, but just as an example, right? So I really want to talk about the power of surrendering in anxiety. And so I just gave you the clinical insight, or like literal verbatim from the DSM-5 of what is necessary to be diagnosed with anxiety. Also, disclaimer, please do not diagnose yourselves. This is a podcast episode. Yes, I am licensed, and yes, I'm being, very informative and educational here. But if you want to know if you really have anxiety, you're gonna have to go see a therapist, or a psychiatrist, psychologist to properly diagnose you. Okay. Um, okay, let's get back on track. So yeah, for me, my own thoughts about anxiety, my own perspective, and also something that I teach my clients is that anxiety to me is a lack of faith. And I don't mean religious faith, although it can be. But I just mean faith in terms of, do you believe that you can handle what life throws at you? Right? For me, anxiety a lot of times is a lack of knowingness that you're going to be good no matter what. So anxiety lives in the future. And I'm not going to be talking about depression today, but just to give you an understanding of the duality, our healthiest self is when we are in the present, right here, right now. Less things on the brain, more time focusing on what's right in front of you, right? That's why mindfulness activities like sewing or coloring or cooking or working out, of course, breath work, meditating, being in nature, those things are so good for the mind, body, and soul because it's giving your brain a rest. If you are focused on what's right in front of you, you don't really have the space to think about anything else. And that's so good for you, right? I know in our society, we are so built to be these like overproductive busy bees, but that is not how we are intended to live. And as a mother and entrepreneur, a mompreneur, trust me, I get it. I find myself too trying to juggle all the things, but I promise you, when I have the remembrance, which is often because I practice this, of slowing down. It's so easy for me to get revved up. Side note, like if you know me and if you've been following this podcast for a minute, or if you've been one of my clients, or you've been following me online for some time, like it is just so easy to get me revved up into work, 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 work. Juggle, 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 juggle. I can do it all. Like it is just my unconscious pattern that I have grown immensely from. But wow, let me tell you, she is still there, hard body. And it takes conscious remembering, conscious reconnecting to self for me to be like, hey, girl, what's this all for? We don't have to do all of this. What's the one thing that we get to work on today? Or what are you actually in need of today? Of reconnecting to my soul, to self, to just remember that I can take things one day at a time, one step at a time, and things work out much better for me when I do that. When I slow the brain down, when I slow the thoughts down, when I slow the anxiousness down, um, I get to remember that answers can come to me easily. Answers can flow to me. It's so funny because when we're in friction, when we're forcing and like have to push and I have to think and I got to do all these things, that's when tension arises, right? When we feel like we don't have the answers, and so then we have to push for the answers in life. And that has a lot to do with anxiety. So, what I was saying prior was that yes, anxiety has a way, sorry, let me back up 2 steps. The duality. Anxiety is very much future focused. Thoughts can sound like, what if this happens? What if that happens? I don't think I'm going to make it. I won't be able to do this. And all of those thoughts simply project the future, which is unknown, right? Okay. Then depressive thoughts sound more like, oh God, that's horrible. I can't believe I did that. Or um you're reminiscing on something of the past and it's making you sad or feel shameful or guilty. Those are big with depression, shame and guilt. And so if you're watching me right now, but even if you're not, you can imagine that to be in the middle, to be centered, is to be still, is to be present. It is in your most meditative state, right? Which is super healthy for us. And so, if you think about like the chakras or meditation, it's like your body is straight, or prayer, your body is straight, you are focused, you are breathing, well, you have a sense of groundedness. Whereas now I'm going to lean over to the right to represent anxiety. When you lean over to the right, you're like, well, what if this happens, and what if that happens, and so on and so forth. And your body's tipping over because you're so desperately wanting to peek into the future, which, hey, newsflash, we can't really do that, right? And so then if you go back to the middle, here we are being centered again. But then if we go to the left, that to me represents a depressive side of things. The like, I'm looking over my shoulder into my past, into my rear view mirror, and I'm remembering all the crappy things that have happened to me. And that just makes me feel bad. And I feel guilty, and I start feeling sorrow, shame, and all of these bad emotions get stirred up again. So I could have a whole different episode on depression and trauma, because usually what we're looking back on tends to be trauma, even if it's a small t trauma, meaning like not something to warrant, PTSD, but it's still traumatic and it's still something that we have to heal. Um, I won't go into it too deep, but I'll just say there is a great way to reflect on your past without getting stuck in it. And it's something that I think my coaching services do a great job of doing. Um, but yeah, a great therapist should get you there too. We want to peek into the past to learn from our past so we don't make the same I don't want to say mistakes, especially if something was done to you. But you learn everything is a learning lesson, and your emotional responses is key on how you handle future hardships. So I'll just say that about depression. Back to anxiety. So anxiety relating to the right, we want to know, we want to know, we want to know. And so I said a couple, maybe like 5 minutes ago, that for me, anxiety is a lack of faith because you're not believing in yourself. There is a hardship that you think is either happening or about to happen that your brain and your heart is saying, I don't know if I can handle this. I don't know if I can cope. And so when we do that, we can go into fight or flight, right? And when we start to, if we're fighting it, we start to work really hard in whatever way that means to you for that particular situation. We're either racking our brains, we're planning. Hello, anxious people tend to be amazing planners to the T, but let me tell you, it's a lot of times it's a waste of energy because those things don't happen. So politely I will say they're not excellent planners, they're excellent worriers. And because of their worry and anxiety, they're planning, 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 planning for things that may never happen. And it's tiresome. It excretes a lot of energetic waste in the mind and the body, and it allows for one of the symptoms of anxiety to be fatigue because you're just thinking all day long, right? Now, some people may challenge me and say, well, I don't know. I'm thinking about my husband. He's in the military, where he was in the military. He's a veteran. And like, yeah, for certain jobs, certain experiences, you are trained to be super vigilant. But only for that specific time period because you're doing a specific task. Like you have to think about, remember, anxiety is that you're doing this all the time. You're doing this at work, you're doing this at home, doing this with your kids, you're doing this at school, you're doing this with your friends. Like it could be something so simple of like, well, what are we going to go eat tonight? And your brain is already on like, well, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this and we can do this. And it's not fun, right? Like there's a difference between planning things out. I'm a huge planner. I love planning. But it doesn't suck the life out of me. It doesn't make me stressed. Okay. I am planning for the future. I have goals to hit for myself. And I'm doing it in a way that feels like I am reaching for the stars with a plan of how to get there, but I'm not super attached to the outcome. Okay. And so if we're planning, 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 and it causes great stress, if things don't go exactly how we planned it, then we're being super rigid, not flexible. And that too is another indicator of anxiousness, right? So again, I keep thinking about my motherhood clients because wow, this is so, it is just such a present thing for a lot of my mamas. So lack of faith, the importance of surrendering. Anxiety can really be combated. Yes, we want the coping skills. Yes, we want the breathing techniques. Yes, we want the cognitive restructuring. That's something that we do in therapy when, the client is talking and, the therapist is listening and we're dissecting in our minds with love, never judgment. And we have a trained ear to listen to patterns. We have a trained ear to listen to the way that you handled this one stressful situation versus the way that you handled one last week, and what are the similarities and how can we make it better? Okay. We have a trained eye for somatic symptoms of, when you're slouching, when you're crouching, when you're holding your breath, all things like that. So that yeah, we're getting a full picture understanding of what's happening to you on the inside and out when you're retelling certain stories or just telling us about your life. And um, for me, it's fun. And I don't mean that in a way, please don't take that disrespectfully. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at what I do. I'm good at listening. I'm good at observing. And it's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle where, somebody's telling me their life story, and my job is to streamline. My job is, as you're telling me what's going on, um, for me to remember all the other times that you said anything similar to the fact of what you're sharing now. And my job is to piece it all together for you in a way that's not overwhelming and allows you to better understand self. I mean, I think that is just fantastic. Trained, skilled therapists like that, like, wow, what a gift. Like, not tooting my own horn, but yes, I am tooting my own horn. Like, what a gift for someone to be able to do that for you so that you can understand yourself and hopefully work to improve your behavioral responses. So, yeah, you know, I say it's a lack of faith because when you're telling me or telling yourself about these problems that you're facing, it sounds like you're in defeat. It sounds like this is too hard. It sounds like this is overwhelming. And listen, that doesn't mean that you can't be overwhelmed from time to time, but if this is like your regular thing, I mean, your self-talk needs improvement, right? Your self-talk, because this is a reality. Life won't get easier per se. No, even those with the best of mental health and mindset, we still have our challenges. I think my life, I was talking, earlier in an episode with my husband, in celebration of our 1 year. If you haven't listened, definitely listen to the last two episodes. They are fantastic. Well, yeah, I was talking to my husband about how life continues to get harder for us in the best way possible because we're managing more now. But our mental health and our mindset has been so strong and has evolved so greatly that we're actually able to handle more stress and it not feel that way, right? Like in, I'm not, how do I say this? I don't necessarily want more. It's like I don't want more things. I want to have greater impact. And the line of work that I do, the evolution of my business, of my soulpreneurship, right? I feel very deeply connected to my business and what it does because I really am here to help people. Hence why I do things like the podcast or go live on my Instagram from time to time. There's a bunch of paid ways to work with me, and then there's also a bunch of free ways to still get my medicine. And my intentions here is to help people. So I also feel like it's been a God-given talent to for me to be so good at what I do. And it's just selfish not to share those things. Anyway, that was a side note. But what I need to come back to is that, yeah, like me and my husband are able to handle more now because of my mission behind it. I want greater impact. And just to give you a quick insight on like what's been revealed to me time and time again, which I'm so excited about, like my evolution of growth, my evolution of being better able to handle stress, slash anxiety, anxiety symptoms, anxious symptoms. Um, my a business is wonderful when you can help one person. I'll just forget the business. A service is wonderful when you can help one person. And so these days, I'm really focused on helping many people. And so how do we do that, right? Like my business went from, these small 4-week programs where I would help 4 to 5 people at a time, which was fantastic. And then most of my work was like one-to-one individual counseling, which is what most therapists do, right? And that's great. I love that. Um, and then, group coaching came around and I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can give a lot of people my medicine at the same time. They get to watch me live and ask live questions, and they have group interaction. It's like being in school, right? And that was great too. It's like, okay, wonderful. How can I have a greater impact? Um, and so why am I saying all this? I'm like, Jalissa, get back on track. My brain wanders like this sometimes. So Yeah, because this is all about anxiety and how me and my husband are better able to handle stress now. I guess what I'm trying to say is that our lives have evolved greatly and the business it has evolved greatly. Like the business is just more complicated now in the best way possible. Like it has more legs, there's more intricacies. There's more things that we have to juggle, but I'm not doing it by myself. I have a team, I have support. And that's actually a really healthy sign of mental health, right? I think one of the biggest problems that people suffer with when it comes to anxiety is that they feel like they have to do it all by themselves, and or they're going through hardships and they don't ask for help. Again, I'm going to bring in my mama's hello motherhood. That's one of the biggest issues that I have to help mamas overcome is like I'm like holding you with love and I'm like ask for help. Where is your support system? Um, and listen, even if you feel like you don't have one, I promise you, if there's a will, there is a way. And if you're looking, somebody will show up, even if they're not blood related family. Um, so yeah, asking for support, surrendering. That's really what this message is about, surrenderance, right? If having anxiety is a result of not having faith, then how can we surrender? Right? In peace, not like we're giving up, right? Surrender in peace, in groundedness, in faith that I believe that I can get myself out of this. I believe that even though this might be hard, I can do this. Um, I believe that if you are religious in any way, shape, or form, that my God, my higher power, source, universe, can support me through this because they always do, right? Like one of the things that I used to say all the time in the beginning of my career was think about the hardest thing that you have ever had to go through in life. Right? You're thinking about it. And if you're listening to me right here, right now, then you've obviously made it through. And even if you're still going through it right now, you're surviving. And I don't want life to be a surviving thing where you always feel like you're surviving. That is also someone who is in high stress, high trauma. But you're here with us. You're listening to my podcast because I imagine that you value your mental health, your mindset, and you're looking for tips and tricks, right? So like you're doing things to better your mental health. It does this hardship isn't just swallowing, right? And if you're past it, then even more to make my point clear that you're doing a great job, right? So, right, if having anxiety is a lack of faith, and we can remember that we've gone through some of the hardest moments of our lives, and we are still here standing, trying to be better, to learn from our uh, past mistakes and learn how to better maybe avoid certain situations, whatever may have you, then isn't your life a series of learning and observing and getting to know yourself better and so that your future could be better in some way, shape, or form, even if it's by 1%, right? And so there is nothing as of yet that you have not overcome. When we are able to tap more into that mindset, that belief that, yes, this can be really challenging, but I know I can do it. Yes, I'm going through a really hard time right now, but let me focus on what is going well in life. That's a big one too. That's why gratitude is so important. Let me focus on what is going well in life. Right? So yes, let's just say example purposes like yes, I'm having a horrible week. Oh my God, I got an unknown bill come to my name that's overdue and now I have to pay extra on that. Oh my God, my car got a flat tire. Now I have to pay for that. Oh my God, my kids are sick, so I now I have to take off of work. Oh my gosh. Like let's just say we're having a bad, horrible week, right? If you can find the strength and the ability to still point out what is going well, you have won or you are going to win the battle. Okay, so even through all that hardship, I can say things like, I'm so blessed that I can take the day off from work to take care of my children. because that's the most important thing, right? Um, I'm so blessed that I have money to pay a bill, even though it was overdue, right? Even if it does make my budget a little bit tighter, I'm so blessed that I have income coming in, right? My car breaking down or the flat tire, I'm so blessed that for all this time, my car was taking me to work and driving my kids to school and taking us to activities. And my car is a vehicle that allows us to get groceries and live have stability in our lives and so on and so forth. I'm so grateful that we have a home, we have a roof over our heads, there's food in our fridge, there's clothes on our back. I'm so grateful that um I have support in my life so that even when things get hard, I can still lean on people, right? That is the winning mindset that overcomes anxiety. That even though we have stressors and even though we have hardship, we believe, that's the biggest part, we believe, have no faith that we can overcome this thing, right? Because when the anxious mind is thinking, 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 planning, 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 having to go through a certain structure in order to feel safe, it's all about safety. What we're saying is that safety is outside of us. Safety is in the planning. Safety is in the knowingness of the future, which we cannot have. We do not know what the future holds. I literally do not know. None of us know what's going to happen in the next minute. I have no idea. My power could go out. I could stop recording this episode. My lights could go off. This house could get struck by lightning. And I'm saying all these things, and I'm not getting nervous about it. But like, there's just so many things that could happen. My kids could start wailing, and it just ruins the audio. Like, like there's just so many things that could happen in the next 10 seconds, 1 second that I have no control over. And what I'm saying is that even if that's a key phrase to take away from this episode, instead of saying what if, you can say even if my kiddos start bawling, I can just stop talking, edit this part out, and then continue recording. Even if the power goes out, I can clearly stop talking and just continue it at a later point in time. Even if blank, 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 I will overcome this. I can overcome this because I believe in myself. Okay. That to me is the power of surrendering, right? It's not that we're giving up. It's actually very powerful because I'm saying that I don't have to plan. I don't have to plan, right? To that extent, perhaps, because I trust that everything will work out because it always does. And I know that I can be really good on the spot. In fact, I always tell anxious individuals that you guys are superhumans for that. If there is anyone who can think quickly on the spot, it is an anxious person because your brain is going a mile a minute. You're telling me that you wouldn't be able to think of a solution on the spot. The only way that would happen is if you are completely like paralyzed of fear, right? And if that happens to you, maybe this is your sign to get support, to go see a therapist, to get a coach, to do some type of self-help. Yeah, but I would be wary because I always say like there's beautiful, just like this podcast is like a self-help, right? A book can be a self-help mechanism, but if you are still struggling, you might need to hire real help. Okay. So yeah, that's my message for you guys today. And the reason why I wanted a tangent about, my impact earlier is because recently in act of surrendering, I think, I'm a growing person. I'm always learning and evolving and I still make mistakes and I'm just learning. There's really no mistakes. I'm just learning. And for a long time in my business, I was pushing, 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 pushing. I made things so complicated. Honestly, I got super fancy with the way that I help people and there's nothing wrong with that. Everything's a learning lesson, but there is so much purity in stillness, in calmness, and in simplicity. So, in the honor of surrendering through empowerment, because I know God has my back, I know universe has my back, I know I've got my back. I um I really want to I'm really excited to share a new offer that I'm kind of bringing back. So for a long time, if you don't know, the way that you can work with me has always been through like group coaching programs, or I have my VIP, high ticket tiers for those that do want one-to-one work with me, but they get so much support in those containers. And so it's more than just like it's just more than just like therapy, right? And therapy is wonderful, but again, we've made things super intricate and beautiful with all the ways that we support our clients. And so what I'm saying is that there's also a space very much needed for beginner clients that are maybe new to my world and don't just maybe that all that support and help is just overwhelming because they can't handle all that right now and they just need somebody to talk to. So in honor of keeping things simple, I am actually reopening one-to-one services again, traditional therapeutic support. Where you would see me once a week. We meet for about 45 minutes. We talk. I give you coping skills. I help you untangle the mess of the brain of the mind. And yeah, I support you in that fashion. And so I'm really excited and happy to say that we are opening up 5 spots for one-to-one counseling. And one spot has already been taken, so we have 4 spots left. And yeah, I if this interests you, click the link in the show notes, email me, DM me. My handles are at julissa.edwards_counseling. Um, you can find all the links in our show notes to get in contact with me. My email address is at julissaedwardscounseling@gmail.com. And yeah. I love to support you um, in that fashion. And we actually have a brand new program coming out for my mamas called the Mama Mind Reset Program. It's another new offer where I'm bringing it back to the basics and honoring simplicity for the clients that need that at this time. I do attract a lot of clients that have been on a healing journey for a long, long time. And so they're usually more fit for my 6-month mastermind container, which is called a Conscious Motherhood Circle. It is a great motherhood program. But I'm really happy to announce that we're actually creating a 4-week bite-size um, mastermind where, oh, well, a bite-size program, not mastermind, my apologies, um, where we are holding mamas for 4 weeks. And we're supporting and we're building new rituals and customs and giving insight, all to release rigidity, all to release anxiety, and all to help this beginner mama feel more at peace in her home, in her mind, in her skin, in her heart, when handling all things motherhood and baby life and all the things. So, if you're a mama and you're in need of support in that fashion, I would say the ideal client for this program is someone more in the beginning journeys of their motherhood journey. I'm sorry, of their mental health journey, preferably mamas that have babies 7 and under. New mamas are always welcome. Pregnant mamas are always welcomed. And yeah, it's a great 4-week program where we instill new habits and we expand the mind, expand the heart, build new perspectives, build your mindset, build your resiliency. So when life gets tough, because if you're a mama, you know this ish is challenging. You have the most confidence and empowerment to really see it through and eliminate that anxiety. So just because I'm being super open and frank here, the one-to-one prices is 125 per session. It is out of pocket. I do not take insurance. Some of my clients are able to get a billable monthly receipt and get some reimbursement, but that is a case by case basis. And it is your job to figure that out and find that if that is true for you, we will always give you an itemized receipt of your services. And then the Mama Mind Reset program is 1497 for 4 weeks. We have payment plans where you can pay 500 on a monthly basis for 3 months. And or we also offer financing where you can put $94 down, or sorry, $0 down and pay 94 a month until the balance is paid off. So yeah, we have options. I cannot wait to support you. I got a great spirit message from Spirit letting me know that bring it back to the basics, Julissa. Like you can definitely still have, and I do still have my high ticket coaching programs that are much longer that run from 6 to 12 months. They're more intimate, they're more intense, not more intimate, they're more intense, I should say. It's a longer commitment and it's for a customer who has had a lot of inner work done. Um, But I'm really excited to begin these new services with my newbies, with individuals that are just trying to roll in. So if that is you who is looking for one-to-one services, or if that is you, mama, who's looking to be supported in your motherhood journey, same ways that you can reach out to me, like I said about 2 minutes ago, you can DM me on Instagram, you can email me. I would love to support you, love to hear from you and see if these programs are fit for you. Okay. Alrighty, that is all for now. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode and you want to see more episodes like this, you can always leave a review, please and thank you, and let me know what we're doing well and what was most insightful. All right, now, until next time, bye for now. Thank you for tuning into Mindset Mastery with Julissa Edwards. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive future episodes packed with valuable insights. Remember to follow us on social media at thehealthy.highperformer for more inspiration, tips, and updates. If you found this episode helpful, we'd appreciate it if you could share it with your network and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us as we continue to empower high performers like you. Until next time, keep mastering your mindset and thriving as a healthy high performer.